All right.
Okay, welcome to our February Development Activities Meeting. My name is Barbara Rudiak, and I'm the president of the Southside Community Council. If you're new to the meetings and would like to know how Southside Community Council became a registered community organization and why RCOs hold these meetings, you can go to our website, southsidecommunitycouncil.org, then the tab About Us, and then to News and Information. We work closely with city planning through this process and have two city planners with us this evening. Philip Wu is our host, and he will explain how you can participate in tonight's meeting. Thomas Scarf is the neighborhood city planner for Southside, and he will be taking notes that will be used on the dam page and for the commissions and zoning board. He may also provide comments when needed. So we have three projects this evening. The first is listed as 1209, 1213 East Carson Street and has been to us before. In our documentation to the community, we indicated that it was the Urban Tap Courtyard because it's the focus is on the building on Bedford Square. The second is 601, 603, 605 East Carson Street, and the third is 1500 Bingham. So all three will be presenting to the Historic Review Commission in the next couple of months. So this meeting is an opportunity for the presenters to receive feedback that should help them with that meeting with the commissioners. So after each, we will also discuss next steps in the process. So Phil, if you'd like to share that.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. As Barbara mentioned, I'll be going over here a few pointers related to participating in the meeting tonight. First, if anyone has any technical issues or needs any assistance, you can ping me using the chat feature, and I'll try to help you out. As for our presentations tonight, if you have any questions to the presenters and you're a member of the public, you can use either the Q&A tool to type out your question or comment, or the chat feature or the raise hand button if you would like to speak your question out loud, and we'll call on you in the order that that your hand was raised. If you're on a phone and would like to participate by asking a question or making comments, you can press *9. That will raise your hand, and we'll unmute you when we're ready to have you ask your question. For our presenters, we ask that you be mindful of anyone who may be on their phones or who might not be in front of a computer, and to try your best to describe what's on each of your slides. And lastly, we are recording this meeting for the Southside Community Council to post online later if folks who were not able to attend tonight would like to watch. And with that, I think we can get started. David Morgan is our first presenter, and as Barbara mentioned, we'll be presenting on proposed renovations for additional exits to the courtyard building at the Urban Tap at 1209 to 1213 East Carson Street. So David, if you would like to share your screen.
I think he needs to be elevated to a panelist.
Oh, okay. I thought I had elevated him.
I don't know about that word elevated. I think promoted. Elevated.
Yeah.
Like.
Looks like he's in now.
So at the schools now, Barbara, which I thought was so weird. They elevate to the next grade is the language.
See, I did. Yeah, I just did promotion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
David, can you hear us?
He may be muted.
David, you're muted.
Unmute. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, there I am. Okay.
There you go.
Would you be able to share your screen and your presentation?
Sure.
Or would you? Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to share screen. Okay, can you see this drawing?
Yep.
Okay, so after our meetings with the HRC previously on this project, and I'll refresh your memories, this project is for a facade renovation on East Carson Street, but also for what in essence is a new building at the rear of the property, which we were approved for at a previous HRC meeting last year. So I don't know if you could see this elevation. I can zoom in on it. What we had presented to the HRC was a window here and a window here. I submitted to PLI, and they came back with comments saying that our courtyard needed to have 2 exits, and that we're sort of landlocked, so we can't really exit anywhere except through the building in order to achieve those 2 exits. So what we're proposing is just to change this, what used to be a window here, into a door with a small stoop and a couple steps down. And this is the elevation. This is probably the most the easiest way to look at it. So essentially replacing a window like this and coming in with a door like this, maintaining the transom bar exactly as it was before, and just inserting a door within that storefront. I actually personally think this is probably more appropriate for this building, because most buildings do have doors right out onto the street. Before, we weren't using that as any entrance, so I actually think that this is probably a little more appropriate than it was before. So that's really the only change. We need to exit through this building because they need 2 exits out. We're creating an exit here at the edge, and we are turning that into a door. So, I mean, that's essentially all we're doing.
Any questions or comments for David?
I have just one about the stoop, I guess. Is there any reason why you brought out the whole landing out into the sidewalk? I can't really gauge how much wider the sidewalk is there, but I know that's
It's not an 8-foot sidewalk, so we do have, or excuse me, a 9-foot sidewalk back there. So we do have enough space, but initially I was showing this flush here, but we can't swing out onto a right of way. So I've created this little recess here. I could do a couple steps down here if that is preferable. I'm totally open to that. If the design committee, or the LRC rather, would prefer to see that, I would be open to that.
my thought on that was, yeah, I just don't like the idea of what the railing is, because you kind of have it drawn as, just a simplified tube railing, but I really hope that we'd be doing something a little nicer there. And if you did more of a flush step, you wouldn't have as much of a railing presence as an elevational issue. But
Right.
that's my 2 cents. I don't know. What do you guys all think?
I'll jump in for Mike. Yeah, I could take it either way. And to your point, yeah, would hope that if the railing on the presented stoop was out there, that we'd do something a little bit more with it. But as far as the guidelines go, I don't think there's much of a guideline that says exactly what that all needs to be. So there's a little bit of interpretation there, and somewhat of a new building. We could take it either way. I don't think the guidelines state one or the other. David, I think in your plan doesn't quite match your elevation. You have a center brick pier.
Yes. Yep.
So
that has
just in
to.
terms-
Yeah, there'll be a brick pier right here. So this is the correct version here with the center brick pier. That's what was approved.
Yeah, and I do remember this going through HRC, LRC. So I didn't see the changes being particularly radical. You do get this recess now, and you kind of see into what would be that left-hand side wall in the recess. Again, it's just another little corner. Hopefully it would be lit after hours and all that. So, it is what it is. You need the requirement for egress. This is, I feel, a pretty reasonable way to handle the situation. I do agree having a door on that building makes it look more appropriate or sort of within the context of a neighborhood, realistic. It was kind of odd to have this just windowed wall of a facade of a building. So I think that is an enhancement. But I guess that's where I stand at the moment. Anybody else?
I'm curious, what's the sidewalk width on Bingham Street, and how much does this landing encroach into that?
It's 9 feet and we're encroaching in this current configuration 4 feet here. So we have 5 feet to go around.
Okay,
But I think that I sort of agree with Jerry that maybe we would have a step here and then an additional step. And then we would only encroach 11 inches. And we would have just a small rail on either side.
yeah, that would be kind of urban friendly. Yeah, that's my only comment.
She's crying.
So David, the intent would be, most people are coming in, I assume, through the restaurant to the backyard, right? To have
Yes, this would not be an entrance at all. This
yeah,
door would be
strictly
closed.
exit only.
Yep.
Same with the gate into the courtyard, it's a secondary exit.
Yeah, this says, this will have panic hardware and will be open, anytime the courtyard's open, that door.
Right,
It will have panic hardware.
so it's not like people are queuing up out here and,
No, we're expecting.
There's a
everyone to
hostess
come
station.
through the restaurant.
yeah, fair enough.
Now, is that on Bedford Square?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because to the, looking at it to the left of that, is it Zoltan
Yes.
building is next to it?
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know if you recall, but at the previous HRC meeting last year, we did tweak this building, I think quite a bit from our initial presentation to try to match the Zoltan building and, just to be a little more friendly with that building. So, I think
remember.
we're definitely in keeping with the spirit of what we did originally, but, just the need for that exit door has messed us up a little bit.
Yeah. To that point, I think HRC asked you to kind of put this building in context with the Zoltan building and give a kind of a view for them to see it side by side. if I
Yes.
recall. So that would have been helpful to see that. And you may want to include that again on your next go around.
Sure, I can include that. Yep.
Bob, was that you that mentioned lighting on the exterior?
Yeah, just to have not a dark alcove there, something at least up under the ceiling, lighting the alcove after hours, so you don't get a dark, basically becomes a pissoir in the middle of the night unless it's fairly well lit. May still be a problem, but that's not unlike any other recessed vestibule in the district.
We will
Right,
have,
sort of.
we'll actually be required to have an emergency light here, but I think we could probably, I think anytime this was open, we could have this light on in here.
Right,
that's
just to
outside of
deter
the-
people from camping out in there maybe
Mhm.
at some point. And then what about any lighting on the building itself? Is there any other exterior light fixtures going on the facade?
No light fixtures on the facade.
Okay. And what was the recap of the change? You're going to take it from a landing to 2 steps?
Yes, we're
Keeping the
gonna take
door
it, it's gonna
recessed?
enter straight in. So this cross rail, et cetera, would be gone. We'll just have really 1 step down, two risers, 1 tread down to the sidewalk. And that will get us there. We'll just have 2 small side landings then. I mean, 2 small side rails then. Just
So
for
where, hi, this is Quaylen. Hi, David.
Hi, Quaylen.
Where is the handicapped entrance?
Handicapped entrance is here. This. It
Show
would
me
be-
again. I'm sorry, I was,
No, that's okay. Let me
Okay.
let me see something here. Let me go back into my files real quick and I will bring up the,
well, you could just tell me in terms of that building. Because if you had that step going in, I just was interested in the ADA so that they could easily get in.
yes, yeah, no, we're absolutely, yeah, we'll be ADA compliant because
You have to be.
we have to be but where am I here? But to the side of the building where this
Okay,
it's a 1 to 20 slope going up to the
okay.
patio. And there'll also be handicapped access through the front door. So we won't have both of these as handicapped accessible, just this one, but there will be additional handicapped accessibility through the front door. So people will be able to get into this space.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Jerry has his hand up.
Yeah, I didn't know what the protocol was. My question is along the same lines as Quay Lynn's. So David, you haven't sent this back to PLI? It has to go to HRC before?
Yeah, it has to go to HRC because we're adding this door. They won't, they don't want to review it with that.
So you're confident that they won't want to see this as an accessible entrance, even though in the current circumstance, it's not so defined?
Well, I haven't talked to anyone about that, but we do have, I think we have a total of 3 accessible entrances out of 4 for the entire building.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My question is that this represents itself as an entrance, and should the context of the use change, let's just say they build another building where you have a patio entry right now. I honestly don't know the code interpretation, but it's a question in my mind if we're looking at the aesthetics or the appropriateness of something which may in fact not be code compliant.
Right.
That's just my question. And I'm not saying that from a position of certainty.
No, I understand. I think if they were going to require a ramp, I don't think we would do an exterior ramp out here. I think we would just slope up inside the building. Inside this space, we would get the ramp. So we could commit to having this with 1 step, or this could be a grade and have any ramp we needed right in here.
So then I just had one follow-up question. I guess, Bob, we have not seen this yet at the LRC with the door.
No, this is the first step. It goes to DAM first before it comes into LRC. I mean, Dave and I were talking about that, and it was sort of like, if he knew the protocol, we could entertain and work with someone ahead of the DAM if they knew about us and wanted to come to us, like David does on occasion. But what sets the trigger, he wants to make an application to HRC, or at least talk to HRC, and they said, well, you got to go back to the DAM. So the DAM starts, and then we usually follow up in between that because there's a 30-day waiting period. So it really ends up being 45 days. He won't be able to go to next week's HRC hearing. He'll be on the April agenda now, just in terms of timing. Whether all this for such a simple change could have been done over the counter, doesn't sound like HRC was comfortable with that. Whether we should promote that or not is something everybody could comment on. But David was told to come to tonight's DAM. Here we are. Normally, if this was not approvable or had significant issues, we'd invite them to LRC next week, and we'd have a month to work with them before they went into the April hearing, is sort of what the process is these days.
So just to be clear on what you said, Bob, is it your thought/recommendation that this would not come to the LRC now?
There's enough of us here, I think, with Jody, we could decide that. If you and I and Jody feel fine and we wanted to share this with John and Peter, we could skip that. We're not formally part of the process. We are when we're here at this hearing with the RCO. But we usually bring them to LRC to get into the weeds and work out details that are problematic, and we don't want to waste an hour of everybody's time figuring it all out here. We'll bring them to LRC to get into more detail. But at the moment, unless any of us have an objection, we could still invite them into the LRC next Tuesday, finesse this a little bit, and then let them go downtown.
I would only add, because I always like to see David.
You guys too. I love that. I think it was the last in person. It was at Bonfire. Yeah, drinks. That was fun.
So we did, with John Martine at the table, spend quite a bit of time on this a year ago.
Yeah.
No, not quite, but yeah, a while
The
ago.
last go around, I would say seasoning the proportion of things, and the taste has changed somewhat. I would just offer that if it came to the HR or the LRC, I might adjust the seasoning, or put that forward to you, David. I would not take the time here with everybody to do that, because it's really an act of seasoning more than changing ingredients.
Yeah.
But that would be I don't know what Jody thinks, but
No, I'm good with a change. I think the stairs coming straight out makes more sense than the kind of the angled stairs that are currently shown. Yeah, as far as the accessible entrance or egress, I think that's probably up to PLI to determine if that's necessary or required. So I think I'm fine kind of pushing it through like this.
David, would you be opposed to coming and see us next Tuesday to season this up a little bit?
No, not at all.
Okay.
we'll send beer to you.
I think I have some here.
Some Uber Eats or something.
Right. Yeah, no, happy to.
Okay. Tuesday night at 5. I'll send you a link.
Jackie Kaiser has a question.
Thanks, Barb. Signage and branding on this rear entrance. You include a sign in that looks like a beam that you have going across the gate.
Yes.
Does that signage fall under the code requirement, or are you going to revise that in the future, or did you guys already noodle through that at one point?
Well, I think we went through it at the HRC. I presented this at the HRC, and it meets the code. But I will tell you that a sign, when it comes to the sign permit, there may be that's a ways off. So this was the intended signage. This is what was approved, and it does meet the requirements and that was approved by the HRC. Just a sign that's mounted to the steel beam.
And nothing in the windows, no signage, branding, vinyl graphics, nothing.
No, we're not trying to
Okay.
attract anyone to come into the building through here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, no problem.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Can I just ask something? I'm sorry. I think I missed the first meeting where this was discussed, and I'm just trying to get a visual even of where this is because it's throwing me off with the Bingham Street elevation. This is kind of in the parking lot right behind, like, for lack of a better way of saying it, right?
Yes,
Behind
that's
the
correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
You, David, can you scroll up where I think you're able to show what that whole like little,
I don't have a site plan on this sheet. I can find one.
if you're like me, you wouldn't be able to find it quickly.
Sorry, you guys are looking at, you guys don't need to look at all that. Nothing secret, but
Yeah, it might be, for those who weren't at that meeting, it may be nice to just see.
Here, could I share my screen? I can show you a photo. If that would help.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Can you see it? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's what it is now. And then I think what I was asking David to just show us what the plan is that he had shared with us when you're looking at the building next to Urban Tap and how that was all going to be outside seating but this is where that is going to be. So it'll be a nice addition to that area.
Are you guys redoing the sidewalk as part of the project? Just
Parts of it, not all of it.
David, is that new building, is that going to be attached to the Urban Tap, or is it gonna be a freestanding separate building?
It's freestanding.
Okay. Is it, is it just like a, like additional bar space and kitchen, or what's gonna be in there?
Yeah, it's additional bar space, kitchen. No kitchen, I'm sorry, just additional bar space and outdoor seating.
Okay.
There'll be some grass areas in there as well. So it's really not, it's not attached to the building at all. And any bar would be just sort of separate from everything else, but any food out there would be brought in from the inside kitchen.
And just to be clear, is it an extension of the Urban Tap or of the newer restaurant to the side? I know he has plans. I think the pandemic might have screwed them up, but he was opening a second restaurant right next door when we talked last time. Is this for?
We're expanding Urban Tap.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So Urban Tap will be expanded, and this is part of that expansion.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, because initially that was going to be, this space, it was going to be a taco place, but then that went into what used to be Lesvos. And so that was opened. So it's nice to hear that Urban Tap is expanding. Because the question, I think, was what was going to go in there. Once that we saw the taco place on, what's that, 14th Street, 15th Street?
Yes. 15th.
Mm-hmm.
1500 block of Carson, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for that update.
You're welcome.
Anything else for David? Okay, so as it was mentioned, there's 30 more days, 30 days from today for additional comment. And that can be provided to info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org, or it also can be presented as testimony at the HRC meeting. And there's information here and also on their website as to how, if you wanted to make public comment, what it is that you could do. You can email, you can send a letter, you can actually speak at those meetings.
Barbara, I just wanted to add that there's actually more than 30 days, depending on when the hearing is. The testimony received by email can be received up to a business day before the meeting.
Okay.
So it's just, it's whenever the, I guess, April HRC is.
Mhm. But no less than 30 days.
Correct.
But that's nice. That's good to hear that there could be additional time.
That's something that I had talked to Sharon last month. I tried to apply for the HRC and didn't quite realize the process that was here first, but it was already past your deadline to see us last month.
Yeah.
So I was sort of under the impression from Sharon that would be able to be on the March agenda. But I guess it doesn't sound like that's how that works. I
Yeah,
thought
March
putting us
March
on.
agenda.
What's that?
Agenda they just issued the agenda today, and I checked that they didn't put your project on it.
Okay. We're very behind on this. One of the things that what I really wanted to do was see if this was appropriate for over-the-counter approval. Sharon didn't think so, but this keeps, we're pushing way down the line here just because we had to redesign this. Okay, so I just didn't realize until I talked to you today, Bob. So.
And again, that could be a discussion again with Sharon. It never hurts to ask.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to give her a call first thing in the morning and see if that's a possibility. I don't want to, are you guys okay with me asking that based on, I'm happy to go to the LRC and adjust this. But it would be really nice to get on that March agenda. And I don't know if they're able to alter that or not. I mean, not the much, excuse me, to be approved over the counter. So I don't know if you guys could support that, that would be terrific. I mean, I think it's a really, it's sort of a gray area. I actually sent this to her expecting her to come back and say that she was approving it over the counter, because I think there were even comments in the last HRC meeting about putting a door there, because it looks more like it looks more appropriate with a door there. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking exactly, but I'd like to talk to Sharon tomorrow and see if that is something that should be able to do.
David, I'm sorry.
Hmm?
I was just going to say that coming to the LRC might give you a little bit more.
Mhm.
I don't know what policies and procedures are, but you could at least say, I went to the LRC and this was their recommendation.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all right. So I'll talk to her tomorrow and get her temperature on that. But absolutely, well, we're, either way, we're happy to come, or I guess we won't be coming, but we're happy to do a Zoom meeting with you guys next week.
Okay,
Yeah,
Great.
David,
thanks,
I was just
David.
going to add, you're probably the first person to come back with a change to your design that was previously approved. So your good intentions are punished accordingly.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people just make the changes and then it shows up on the street and then we're back to square fighting an
Right.
uphill battle. So
Right.
sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Well, we'll be in touch regarding next week's meeting. You can just, if you want to let me know, send me a Zoom.
Yeah, I'll send it to you after the
I'll be
meeting.
happy to be there.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Take care.
So our next presentation is on facade renovation for 601, 603, 605 East Carson Street. And we have Maria Wilson, I believe, who will be presenting.
Yes, thank you, Barbara.
Okay,
Hopefully you can see the presentation.
yes.
All right. So I'll give you a little bit of background on the buildings, first of all. So the three properties have been combined over the years. 601, 603 was originally a restaurant and bar in approximately 1910 per our research, with living quarters above. My client, Peggy, recently purchased the building with her partners. The upper levels were previously gutted of the apartments and have been sitting vacant, exposed to the studs for approximately 20 years. The first floor does have a tenant in 601, 603, and partially in 605. He has a certificate of occupancy for his use in 601, 603. We are proposing maintaining that retail space at 601, 603, and then providing 3 living units on the second and third floor total, 2 on the second floor, 1 on the third floor, and then 6 additional living units in the 605 property. We were able to locate this historic photo of the facades, which was dated approximately 1938. It's a little hard to see the ground floor because of the train car in the way, but it gave us a sense of the architecture of the building at the time and what we were going to try to strive to preserve. Most of the original elements are still in place. On the 601, 603 building, the 605 building was modified at the ground level at one time. We have the site plan here to show you the building is located at the corner of 6th Street and East Carson, being 601, 603, 605. 605 does extend back to Cabot Way in the rear. There is a small courtyard between 605, 603, and the adjacent property on the corner of Cabot and 6, which is another property owner. Here we'll look at the original or the existing photos of 601, 603, 601 being to the left, 603 to the right. There are currently 3 entrances to the building that are not in use. The 2 highlighted in red ovals are access to commercial space. The door highlighted in green would be our proposed entrance to the upper level residential space of this building. We are proposing to paint the existing cornice, the stonework, the trim in a historic color palette, which I'll show you in the next slide. We'll be maintaining the storefront essentially as it is, and simply replacing the doors with the panels above, but maintaining the existing transom windows in those 3 locations. We will be repairing some flashing, all in kind, just to maintain the integrity of the building. On the 605 building, you can see that the facade is very different. At one time, we believe this building mirrored 607 to the right of it. Our intent is to bring it back to that appearance by removing the flush steel door and small window that seem out of place, removing the bulkhead into the basement and the existing kind of dilapidated stairs into both places. We would like to maintain the door with the transoms, replacing that door with transoms, but maintaining that entrance to provide access to the 6 units we are proposing in this building. We're also requesting that we provide a handicap accessible access at this main entry to those units so that we can access the first floor units. We'll be painting the door, side lights, and so forth, but basically replicating the adjacent building. On this slide here, you'll see our proposed elevation where we have installed 2 double hung windows similar to 607, provided our new paint scheme for the facades of 601 and 603, and installed the proposed ramp in front of the building with a black metal railing. On the side of the building, 605 is recessed from 601, 603, which allows us the space to install the ramp without encroaching on the right of way. There's some graffiti on the building. Our scope of work there is simply to clean that up. And again, we'd repair any damage or loose flashings in kind. There's our elevations. Again, you'll see the ramp and that it is tucked behind and the graffiti removed. Pretty simple there. On the 6th Street facade, our work is fairly limited at this point. At the ground level, we're simply going to paint what's there in terms of the, I guess, plywood infill at the windows and clean it up. At this point, it may be a future phase in the project, but at this point, our goal is just to clean that up. We'll also be painting the cornice, and our hope is to add a roof deck at the rear portion of 601 behind the mansard roof. The parapet wall is approximately 30 inches high, so you would see very little of the railing beyond, especially from street level, you may see very little, if any. And again, we're repairing flashing, painting the existing wood trim. All the windows were replaced and they were approved by the HRC when that work was done on the 2nd floor. We're not planning to make any changes. We may repair some damaged glass, but no full replacement. And then our proposed facade, again, you'll see our paint scheme as just incorporating the historic palette around the corner, and then the installation of the roof deck in the rear area. You see from this view a bit of the railing sticking above that 30-inch high parapet. However, if you're standing on the street and looking up, it would be masked by the parapet wall. And going around to the back of the building on the alley, there was an existing garage door. However, we'll not be able to take advantage of this. The road has been paved and the road is now about a foot above our interior basement slab. So we are proposing to remove the garage door and install a double man door with a fixed panel. We'll allow our tenants storage for bicycles, personal belongings, and accommodate our trash storage within the existing garage space. It can accommodate one vehicle, small vehicle based on its original design. We will also be parging the existing retaining wall to the right of the garage door. And the windows on the rear have been replaced. The upper windows have been wrapped in aluminum trim. The bottom, the lower first floor window has not. We'll do that to match. So that would be our proposed rear facade. Again, pretty straightforward. You will see the railing again on the roof deck. However, that is blocked by the adjacent corner property. Looking into our courtyard, which is only slightly visible from the rear alley, not at all from 6th Street or Carson. There are 3 entrances to the building. There's a commercial entrance, this entrance into the apartments, which is between the front of 605 and the rear of 605. And the black door here in the lower right corner, which is actually the center entrance in the upper right picture that would enter directly into one of the units from the courtyard. That door will simply be repaired. The center door to the left will need to be replaced. We need to reinstall the lintel and repair some of the masonry in that location as well. It appears that we're wondering if at one time these were 2 separate buildings and this little tower in the middle was connected was inserted to connect them, because the masonry seems to try to line up with two different coursings, one to the left and one to the right, which is part of the reason why we think the lintel is completely out of level. But again, just primarily repairs, painting. We will replace obviously the door and transom at that central location. There's our interior facades. So the door to the left in the west elevation is just being repaired, painted, new hardware. The door to the right being the door where we have to shore up the lintel and install a new door and side light. And that's what we're proposing. If you'd like to jump back to the site plan just for a moment, I glossed over it, but the ramp location, we can see in this location, this is the location of the existing door with side lights, where the steps would come up and take you in, and we would wrap the ramp through our space where we are recessed from the facade of the adjacent buildings.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Barbara.
Comments from anyone who wants to start? Questions?
Well, all in all, there's a number of things. So the 1930s photo is always fun to see, particularly with the train car sitting in front of it and the little train station it looks like. So these are great kind of snapshots of the history of the building. So it's great to see it in its full former glory. Overall, I think a very sensitive presentation and approach. We can touch on a few little details here and there. It would be nice, obviously, at some future phase to deal with the windows on the 6th Street side and remove the plywood infills and do all that, but understanding where you are at the moment.
We agree and anticipate that could certainly be phase 2 of the project.
Sure. And I can't remember, do you have documentation of the window changes on the upper floors previously?
I do not. I did do a search and I did come up with the HRC posting of when that was approved. So they are a wood window that's clad on the exterior. I don't have that handy here. I'm sorry.
Okay, very good. Yeah, it's unfortunate we don't see the view of the 605 building and what that first floor might have been, because it obviously looks like it was changed. There's a little piece of a cornice remnant of maybe a bigger storefront.
Peggy thought that Bob had some history on that building.
Well, we have history in the sense that the entranceway between that building and I think it's 607, they kind of share a wood surround. A portion of that fell off one day and collapsed along with some of the brickwork. So I do remember they reconstructed that. I don't know if they completely reassembled what they had or pieced it all back together, but they rebuilt part of that facade, came down on its own one time. So I do recall that. It was kind of a repair in kind.
Hey, this is Peggy Walkish, the owner, one of the owners of the building.
Yeah.
You know, Maria, I'm wondering, we did not get to show a picture of 607. And I think if we could see the picture of 607, would see, I thought was what original, what it looked like, and we're intending to mirror that. Is that something you could bring up, Maria, and share?
I'm working on it, Peggy. Give me one moment here.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Because yeah, I think, yeah, clearly the front of 605 is not what was original. And so our goal is to bring it back to look, mirror what 607 looks like. There you go.
Yeah, and where I'm coming from is you see that little red kind of cornice to the left on 605. It's hard to tell what that is, and if it was tacked on or if at some point 605 was changed and a little storefront went in there. And then there was a change to this kind of metal door and this simple little sliding glass window. Something happened there at 605, possibly in a couple different iterations over its history. So we could debate. I agree with you in terms of the double hungs matching 607. That's one approach, but what's the remnant of that cornice to be? Is that way into any of this discussion at all? I merely throw that out there that there is kind of a history of change here and some elements that don't quite match up. So what does that mean?
Bob, it looks like the brick on the facade of 605, it doesn't look original if you zoom
Correct.
in.
Correct. It is
Yeah.
definitely a different brick.
Yeah, and you can see above the entranceways where the part of that wall had collapsed, the brick that was sort of mixed in with what they lost. Also shows how the kind of patchwork of how that was rebuilt, but all in all, it was a good restoration of the entranceway when that happened. All things considered, but so yes, there's something else happened here at 605 that was different than 607. One approach is these kind of double hung windows that you're proposing. I guess it would be interesting to see what's behind that cornice or what that meant. It would have been great if that 1930s photo gave some indication as to what might have been there before this infill was made. As far as the ramp, fortunate that it's all on your property for the most part. It looks like a little piece sticks out on the sidewalk that's kind of comparable to the stoop to the left
Exactly.
on 603, right?
Yes, it does
Kinda
not
what-
project beyond the steps.
Right, and we can get into a little more details on the railing design and all that, but I mean, all in all, I think you're on the right track, and it's just a matter, like Jerry would say, seasoning and tweaking little things here and there. Again, we're very kind of particular about the rooftop decks. We probably want to see another photo or two from the corners or a little bit down the street to understand, and or a diagram that shows for sure that that railing is inconspicuous and is blocked almost entirely by the parapet. So we may have to adjust the setback on that just to make sure that's the case. The
Certainly,
guidelines
we can set it back further on the roof. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I mean. I think all in all, you kind of get it. You've read the guidelines, you sort of get the gist, and then you're moving in the right direction. I'll open that up to anybody else.
Looks like Jerry has his hand raised.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to applaud the presentation, first of all. It's really
Thank you.
very, very well prepared and well thought out. I have some familiarity with this building over the past 30 years. I can't remember. There was a storefront there at one point, which was subsequent to the 19th century building. So it wasn't clear where you're from that elevation. Are you infilling new brick on that first floor?
Our intent would be to remove the existing door, and I'm going to try to share my drawings again. I'm sorry.
I apologize. I just
No, you're fine. You're fine. I apologize. I'm a little slow here today. I'm a little distracted at the moment. Sorry.
There
Yeah,
we
so we
go.
would leave the cornice in place, remove the door, which is in approximately this location. We'd want to maintain the alignment with the upper windows. So there would be a bit of masonry work. It would match what's there, to the extent feasible. The small window is completely damaged and non-functional. It would have to come out and be replaced one way or the other. But we thought picking up on the details of the upper floors and the adjacent property at 607 would be an approach that was consistent with the context.
So to Bob's remark about seasoning, is this coming to the LRC, Bob?
I would encourage them. Yeah, first time we're seeing it, and it's fairly complex and detailed. We should.
Yeah, I'll try to find what I have, but I think what Bob was suggesting was that existing vestigial cornice, it doesn't bear any relevance to the actual historic building and could be removed. It would not be obligatory under the guidelines, but would certainly contribute to the impact of what you're trying to achieve.
Sure.
If you found a better brick match to the other brick on the building, I think that brick is from the 30s or maybe even the 50s.
It's possible. It's absolutely possible.
It's a harder face brick. If that, and then the last thing, which is definitely seasoning, is around the door transom around itself. But we could, if you're coming to the LRC, I'll pull what I have and we can follow up with that at that time.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's exactly where it's going. That vestige of cornice is odd above a double hung windows like that. So I guess I was suggesting either remove it, as Jerry suggests, and or do a 3-bay window there, or do some bigger type of window that's different than 607. I don't see necessarily, there's nothing in the guidelines that I would say suggest that they have to match 607. That's one approach, and maybe the better one out of the two, but it's not unusual for these buildings, sister buildings, to kind of change over time and one be a little quirkier or a little different than its other sister because of something that happened, like a storefront or whatever. So I guess I was just saying, as it's presented, it seems odd, and it's kind of playing both sides. So let's pick one and go that direction. So
All right. Appreciate your
it's an
feedback.
option, and we can talk in more detail with the other members as to what seems more appropriate given where you're at. I guess my other question in this view is, other than painting the lower story in those doorways, are there changes there? Are doors being changed out where they're not particularly operable into the commercial spaces? It seems like there's more glass, or is that just a painting scheme? And again, I don't know what's there.
That's all right. We're proposing to replace those doors. The two doors that have, I'm going to call it 3/4 lights, are both going to enter into the commercial space. The 4-panel door, more central, would be the door to the residential stair to access the units up above. In the historic image, it appears that there is again, hard to see with the train car, but we're inferring a little bit that there was a panel, a 4-panel above the door. It's where we're trying to replicate in that, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling back and forth here, in that design that we've proposed.
Yeah, sometimes those doors were full height or taller than a 7-foot door. So
That is,
right?
You're seeing the full height door, not a transom.
Yeah.
It's actually the panel arrangement at the top of that door varies from the lower door. So if you look at the one as you're facing the building to the left, which is open in that historic photograph, you roll back up.
You can see there's a vestibule.
You see that there's no, so the transom is actually the same common transom line as the storefront, and it has glass above. It is a technical transom. That's like I don't know, an 12-foot door.
It's about 9.5 feet.
Yeah.
So that little 4-panel. Yeah.
You know, to replicate the idea, but still allow Peggy to use a standard door, because we are trying to balance the aesthetics of the building with the budget, of course. But yes, we're trying to achieve this look in a different manner.
Yeah, hi, this is Peggy Walkish. I just wanted to chime in because, I mean, I love the history of this building, and I've actually been able to read about how an immigrant came over and established this bar room for other, immigrants who are probably working in the steel industry. And we really, our goal over time is to try to bring it back to its former glory. But I mean, I just have to tell you, in all practicality, like if the option were, hey, leave it as it is because it's grandfathered, or do these full on custom doors, like already our budget, because materials have increased, 30 to 50% over the past year. So already we are in a position where we are like, we're not even sure this is financially feasible to do. And I understand in a way why it's sat vacant and to the studs for years. I'm just trying to say, we're just trying to manage this as best we can. And over time, we would love to have this look, as it did back in the day. I love historical buildings, but we're just practically trying to figure out even how to do this project. And so Maria has been wonderful in trying to present options that kind of get us closer to, but from a practical perspective, we just, we can't just we don't have the money to throw at it to not have a return. So I just wanted to add that. I'm not trying to be difficult, and I love historical buildings and the facade, and we want to get there, is all I want to say.
I'm sure that when you guys come to the LRC, which is a smaller group, will help you figure all that out before you go to the HRC.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, to Jerry's point, HRC may see that 7-foot door and then change in transom as not approvable. So we'll have to discuss that in more detail. So the point is not so much what we want to see. It's more like what we think will help you get an approval with HRC. So to your point, they may, and this is conjecture at this point, but they may say, yeah, keep your existing non-complying door. When you change it, let's do something more proportional and appropriate to the facade. And we'll wait for that rather than put a new door in that doesn't match up with things and is somewhat out of proportion and live with that for another 20 or 30 years. You know, we can debate that, but that's sort of things that we see from the HRC, that they'll stumble perhaps a bit on the kind of oddness of the kind of interim scheme or the adjustment to try and save some money rather than try to do something that's more in proportion with the rest of the storefront based on the evidence. So we're just trying to help you kind of get that approval.
That's probably something we'll have to evaluate because, for example, the only door we really need to change is the one that would provide access to the upper floor. So we may just leave, and the same with 605, we may just leave it the way it is until we're able to generate some income and have cash flow down the road to actually be able to financially do it the right way. And so maybe we have to have a phase 1 and a phase 2 and a phase 3, and hopefully you guys can help us work that out.
Exactly. Anybody else have comments from the community? Mike, Peter, anybody else?
I just think it's great that they're taking this on and trying to keep it as historic as possible. And I appreciate their budget issues, but also the work that's gone into trying to retain its originality as much as possible. So I think that needs to be said.
Yeah, it's definitely a contributing building for the neighborhood. So hopefully we can do right by it here and get you some tenants in there and it can flourish at that end for us. So thank you.
So it sounds like that might be it on comments. So again, similar to the first project, we can always take additional comment at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. And when this is presented to the HRC, additional comment can be made via email, letter, or at the meeting. And, you know, this, again, it's not March, it could very well be April that this would go to the HRC, but don't quote me on that. So thank you, Maria and Peggy, for your time and for sharing your work with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate all of your support and your guidance as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the neighborhood. Okay, our third project is 1500 Bingham Street. And I think we're looking at stabilizing the building because it is in disrepair. But that also is connected to the fact that it is in a historic district. And again, work will be needed to be approved by the HRC. So David and Sunny.
Hi, my name is David Noss with RSH Architects, working with Sunny on this property. It's at 15th Street in Bingham. I'm going to share my screen here. Hold on, let me figure out how to hide everybody. Okay, so this is the current state of the building. As you can see, It's a two-story, kind of a nondescript, I guess it'd be kind of like a mid-century industrial kind of building. The previous owner had tried to mitigate some of the issues it was having. The majority of the issue on the facade right now is, as you can see, hopefully here, from the sill of the upper windows up to the top of the parapet, the facade is pulling apart. The building is currently empty. No tenants. There's no partitions or anything in the building. At some point, the coping and the roofing has failed, and obviously water's gone in. And as you can see, the issue, it's becoming it has been a very dangerous and hazardous situation here. Let me go to the second slide here. This is the Bingham Street elevation. It's hard to see on Google, but it is as well starting to peel. The facades here are starting to peel away. Let me do a different screen here. Where is it? Where'd it go? I lost my elevations. Hold on. There you go.
Is it what you shared with us?
You would have gotten it yesterday, probably.
Yeah, because Phil would have that if you can't
Phil-
locate it.
Yeah, Phil, can you pull that up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's see here.
So there's been Sunny's gone through a numerous variations as to what she'd like to do, and so the current resolution is to basically remove the. Can you zoom in around the top elevation there? That's the Bingham Street elevation. So the current resolution is to remove the exterior coursing of the brick and to reinstall it. Remove the windows, maintain the window sizes on all of the windows except the upper left window that you're seeing here. That's actually like a little, there's a little door and a veranda. Sunny would like to raise that up so the windows are even and across, so the fenestration kind of comes across on there. The garage door that is below that right now is a garage door that has a man door within it. She'd like to take that out, leave a garage door there for possible use later, but put a 9-foot tall man door that would, reach the top of that opening. We'd maintain the 3 corbels across the top. She needs to replace the roof. We've discussed that. There's some wood joists in there that need to be replaced as well, which we would do. We put a new aluminum coping to protect the walls now. The brick soldier course heading across the heads would remain. The brick sills would be put back in. Phil, can you scroll down to the lower elevation there? So that elevation, you can see the building behind, and the intent on this elevation would be again to take all the brick off the building, replace all the brick, to put in new windows. She would like to remove the fire escape off the facade of the building right now. It's in dangerous condition. Not sure if it can be replaced by code, quite frankly. I need to look into that. And then where the garage doors were, the intent was to remove the garage doors and put in storefront so that in the future, if possible, to have some commercial space there. We don't have any profiles yet on the windows or material selection on the windows or the storefront. And then also, as of actually about 4:30 this afternoon, Sunny requested, and I obviously didn't have time to make the revisions on these elevations, but the far left and the far right storefronts, she would like doors put into those units, preferably on the outside, the far outside section of those, and to give her a little more flexibility and for possible tenant use, and then that middle door, which is there's an existing door there now. Sunny and I, we didn't really finalize the decision there, but my assumption would be that we would brick that up, leave a little recess to reflect that there had been an opening at one point in that at that location. Again, we'd be replacing, leaving the corbels, putting the soldier core set back in, brick sills. The other comment was that Sunny and I had talked about and discussed was currently, can you, Phil, can you take me back and let me share my screen so I can share the existing conditions? Thank you. Let me go to here. So you can see the building is kind of a buff brick. They were probably seconds, and actually on the 15th Street side, you can actually see there it actually appears to be two different colored brick. Sunny would like to change the brick color to a maroon or burgundy brick. Barbara, I think Sunny may have sent you that color, so you may have that. But that's where we're at this point.
I found a photo of the building. I think it was a real estate site that showed it before it looked like this. And I don't know if that's helpful. And I think, yep, and I don't know how long ago it looked like that.
Plus years at least.
Well, I'm going to defer to Jerry to start this one because he's more familiar with this building a bit. There's a lot to talk about, obviously, from the approach, and there's obviously a lot of issues with the building. So it's a combination of you really got your work cut out for you, just dealing with the kind of technical and structural issues of the building.
Correct.
And I think there's a lot of stuff in flux here on the design that we would have to go back and forth on a bit to kind of flush out various things to your approach, some of which I think are very appropriate, some of which I think we'll need to debate.
Could I just jump in first and just ask,
Sure.
How is it zoned? How are you asking to be zoned? Are you rezoning it? Are you asking for variances to do any of this work?
No, we're not changing the zoning, and actually currently there'd be no change in use. It's currently not used, and again, right now the main emphasis is kind of to it's a dangerous situation, as everybody knows. I think on this, the bricks falling off, and we need to get it. We need to get that resolved, make it safe for the public. And we're trying to do that in the most respectful way and restore the building the best we can, and try to create a building that has value to the community. But there's been no determination as to what Sunny, and I don't know if Sunny has narrowed down what the use of the building is.
Well, is it going to be residential?
No.
Or is it going to be commercial of some sort, offices or retail? Is that? Is that a fair assumption or?
It'd be some sort of commercial, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thanks. That's, I'll come back after.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Molto grazie. You guys did a great job. It's so far around from where you started from. I just want to add for everybody's sort of general information, it is in the historic district, clearly. It is a non-contributing building in the historic district. With Mike Eversmeyer, I drew the line for the district. So we captured this building to get the back of the photo hut building, which is, you see it in elevation behind there. That said, one could make an argument for the significance of the building. It was owned by the Michaels family, which also did the Rex Theater and the building at the corner of 10th and Carson. That's why the brick matches to some degree those buildings. However, as David indicated, this was punky brick on most of this building, and it is deteriorated to the point where it could not be removed and reinstalled. So I personally don't have any objection, nor do I think there's one in the guidelines which says this building has to go back as a white brick building. I think, Sonny could make a choice, an aesthetically appropriate choice that fits with that building. There are 2 other buildings of similar type, also captive in the district along the Bingham Street corridor. One is Thick Bikes right across the street, which was the original post office, but perhaps more similar is the back of the Schwartz Market. So those are all, 1920s sort of industrial buildings, which are peculiar, but not contributing to the district. So the idea of maintaining the pattern, rhythm, and scale of the existing openings and changing the garage doors to storefront. You all probably know I live 50 feet away from this building, and I've probably done 4 different projects for it over the years, so I know it quite well. I just think this is a blessing to see this building put back together again and become part of the corner. So thank you.
So I'll add to that, the infilling and changing out of the garages to storefronts just happened at the Goodwill building further down the district that UPMC, I think, is going to occupy. Now that a lot of those garage doors had been changed over the years. So they sort of had both through LRC and HRC thought it was appropriate for them to make changes to those infills. And I could probably, if we went back through the history, find another couple of buildings where something like this has occurred. So yeah, I don't have an objection. I don't think HRC would have an objection to changing the garage doors to storefronts, and these storefronts have what I think is the appropriate flavor of transparency, and yet not quite, not mimicking simply the industrial windows above. We see that in the past months in a couple of different things where the second story windows are different than the first story because of differences in use on the 2 floors or whatever. Changing some of the windows, like in this facade, you noted that window on the left, changing the original opening and kind of homogenizing it or making it like the other 2. I've seen the HRC get hung up on that, the original masonry openings, and when they're kind of quirky and a little bit different, if they felt that was appropriate to keep the size and relate that to sort of the oddness that certain historic buildings have.
Do you think they would want the door in the veranda to remain, or?
Hard to speak for them, but I think it's more the masonry opening. I know someone at the Zolkov's garage, back elevation on the alley, similar situation. They had a little window with like a bunch of double hung windows, and they wanted to make that little window a double hung window. And they basically told them, no, we like that little window. It's peculiar and it's original, and don't mess with it. So I'm just saying you could try this, but you might want to study an option to keep it as is as a backup when you go to them.
Okay.
Yeah, but to Jerry's point, it's a blighted property, and anything we can do to kind of bring it around and work with you, I think you're very close. And it's just a matter of kind of working through the details again. And I guess if Jerry's familiar with it, I know Peter did an iteration for this. If you feel you can pull that face brick off and put it back on and the rest of the building stands up, great. So we're well on our way here. Jerry's point well taken. There are other industrial buildings in the Bingham corridor, and they are not buff, they are red brick. So you could push that as a precedent or an example. We would agree it's a non-contributing building. It is in the district, so you'd follow kind of the non-contributing guidelines, which are a little bit more lenient for changes like that than if it was a contributing building of the time and era the district is preserving. So you have the flexibility. I think you're doing all the right moves. It's just a matter of details at this point.
Yeah, one of the things I did not mention, the plans would be, we would replace all the sidewalks as well, from property to property line.
Sure.
I'd also like to encourage some street trees if possible in front of along
Are
there.
there street trees on Bingham?
There are in front of thick bikes. There's
Are there? Okay.
3, I believe, and yes. I think city code actually requires you to put it in on sidewalks, providing there's room, and now without the garage doors, I think you'd be asked to do that. So a couple of concerns we always hear from our residents, and I just want to address. I think the interior ramp is gone, is it not? It used to be a ramp.
Correct, it is.
Okay, so that garage door on the side used to open and you go up, but
Yeah.
Actually, I know my brother-in-law used to rent the second floor of this building many years ago. And they kept the garbage inside that back door. And I would like to see the new plan so we don't end up with more dumpsters on Bingham Street side of this if it becomes too successful retail or something businesses. So could the design incorporate some type of common space inside that Bingham Street side door, garage door for trash and recycling, or bikes for whatever, you know what I mean? So it's not more street side, sidewalk, trash or
Sure.
dumpsters, please.
Sure, I understand.
Okay. And then you stole my thunder. I was going to ask about the sidewalk.
Sorry.
So, are you filling in the basement or are you using it? I know it's very small, I hear, but.
The intent right now was to, it was not going to be abandoned. We were going to replace the entrance down into it. And if it was possible to use it for electrical service, we would, but that's kind of down the road. Right now we're trying to, get the bones of it back to, something that's, safe for the public and obviously, make it look nice.
Okay, thank you. Very excited. I know the neighbors will be pleased.
Yeah, so the degree that you can start to research or bring evidence of what window you'd like to select, HRC would probably want to know what product or profiles are on that. Assume the storefront will be aluminum storefront.
Right now, I'm assuming it would be,
no objection.
Yeah, we'll need to just see what kind of profiles we can get. Maybe there's an appropriate profile, time period wise,
Or not. I mean, there are historic buildings in the district, some more historic than this, that go with a pretty straightforward storefront.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, again, being non-contributing.
We have some flexibility.
I think because you are mimicking a more industrial multi-pane window on parts of this, they may want to see a somewhat historic profile to that. But again, it's sort of, I think you have a little bit more leeway, and we can talk about that in more detail once you kind of start selecting product as to whether or not they would go that far in the detailing. If it was a more contributing building, they might obviously push that. And they have to some degree at the other two similar buildings in the district that just went through HRC in the past couple months. There was product, provided that kind of gave them some, I guess, assurance that they were on target for mimicking these kind of metal windows.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll ask you to follow up with staff, come back with some type of product that could be approved over the counter if it kind of meets their expectations. But the more you can prepare ahead of time and bring it in,
Sure.
that helps. Yeah, I don't see a need to have a panelized garage door. What you have there is fine. It is of kind of a 20s, 30s era and a little bit more stripped down, even though I guess the original wood door is panelized. Our committee may debate that a bit. HRC may debate that a bit, but I think on the other example, like Zokov's garage, they did a very simple non-paneled wood door, more of a metal door, I believe. So again, that's sort of up for discussion. HRC may bat that back and forth a little bit.
Okay.
But all in all, I think you're very close.
Had a question from Jackie. What is the occupancy?
Well, currently there is no occupancy in the building itself. And right now, as far as I know, I mean, Sunny can chime in, but she doesn't have any tenants or anybody going into that space right now. So the intent would be to maintain a commercial. It was a commercial space before, so it maintained commercial on both the first and second floor.
And we have a comment from Brosha, very thankful to see movement on this building.
So I guess what I want to say is, again, I appreciate people's comments in thanking Sunny for purchasing this building. Because if not, we would still be spending time, she and I are spending time in municipal court now, dealing with the previous owner's neglect of the property. And so, we have to appreciate that, the building has been purchased. So, but I guess what we're grappling with that, so no permits can get, she is not able to get any permits until I think this goes through HRC. And so the earliest that it can go to HRC at this point is April. And we may say, we're, as residents and all, we're fine with that because we see light at the end of the tunnel. But there's no movement, in the way of getting any kind of permits to do any kind of work, is our understanding, until this is taken care of. And I could be wrong, but I think that we've grappled with that, and there still is the hearing. The hearing has been the hearing for the property being neglected and being problematic. I think we have a 6-month window. It's the hearing will occur in 6 months in order to give time for all of this to go through. But I think that seems to be the frustrating part, that, and David and Sunny, correct me if I'm wrong, no work can be started on this until this approval occurs. And I don't know if I'm correct, but we have not been able to get, I think, any confirmation or correction for that being the case, not being the case.
Yeah, as far as I know, that is correct. We actually submitted to the city a remediation plan in which we showed the coursing, the dangerous coursing of brick being brought down and weatherproofed. And they basically came back and said, because this is in the district, you got to take us through the HRC and go through this whole, the whole process, which is fine. It is what it is. But it's, that started back in November. And, with with winter, I was concerned. I know Sunny was definitely concerned with, what was going to happen with the brick you know, it's stayed up. So, you know, God willing, it stays up and we can get through the process, you know, and bring this building back.
I was just going to interject there, Barbara. I think there is and Phil, I don't know if you can add to this, that there is a policy procedure in place with the city when a building is in this kind of condition, that you can get an expedited review for remediation. I mean, clearly we had a building burn down and another get struck by lightning. The city moved to make approvals to stabilize those structures. So I believe that exists. It would not be an approval to replace or rehabilitate the structure, but in terms of stabilization, I believe that could happen almost immediately.
But weren't those condemned?
This structure, I don't know, Sonny or David, if
This
it has
is not
this
condemned
structure.
as far as I know. Sonny, is it condemned?
I think it was like 2 days after I purchased it, I think it was put on the condemnation list.
I think I've seen a blue sticker on it.
There's no stickers on it.
I didn't see one.
It's easy to determine that, but I'll make
Yeah, I have the list of condemned buildings from PLI. I can take a look. See if it's on there.
That was and I was kind of confused because there was never a placard on the building, but that came from my real estate attorney that I had after I had purchased it. And there was a warning given to me, the day of the closing, that the previous owner did not make the repairs that were required by the city. And I had the choice of backing out of the deal at that time. But at this time, there isn't a placard, but the chances that it will go on the condemned list may occur. And so at that point, I decided to move forward with the purchase. But at the same time, then I was contacted 2 days later, and the real estate attorney said it made it on the condemnation list. So I didn't really receive any paperwork on that, but I knew that I had to expedite to get the building repaired. And although when I purchased the building, I had a certain idea of what I wanted to do with that building, and then it changed to residential. But because of the condition of the building, I don't have the luxury for those options of what I would like to do with the building or the time to spend to explore those options. At this point, it's a safety issue. And so restoring it to its original condition is probably the safest process to move forward with. And so it was really important for me that I was talking to Barbara, is there a possibility to get an emergency building permit to at least address this situation, because the brick is detaching from the building and it's very dangerous for people in the community.
Yeah.
So the answer to that question is emphatically yes.
Yeah, and as I said, we and I think too, the building with the previous owner, there were always continuances when it went to court. And then the last, I think it might have been in the spring when all of the, Sunny's now the new owner. And for some reason, and it might be because she was the new owner, all of the violations were withdrawn or dismissed. And it had to start back up again. So an inspector had to go look at the place, file, the violations, and then, and then we met, I think it was in September, and then it was continued till January. And then fortunately, the inspector of the vacant properties was saying too, I don't know what's happening here. And we were outside the courtroom downtown, trying to figure out where do we go next on this? And, we talked about, do we go to PLI and really speak to the issues that are here? And I think we were directed then back to, HRC. I think, if you're going to replace something, you have to then replace it using the guidelines of the historic district. So I don't know if that's what we kept thinking, well, that's what we have to do. So we were just unsure.
So Phil just pulled up in the chat the emergency work request form. I would suggest, I'll defer to you, Phil, but that David, you make that request form.
I agree.
Whatever your remediation documents are.
Okay.
And I don't know, Phil, coming out of a meeting like this, if you couldn't go back to the director and the chief in the building department and say, look, this came up and this is moving forward. We need to expedite this. I'm sure the councilman's office, if you want that level of attention, would also bring to bear on the powers that be. But this is a no-brainer, folks. This building could fall down at any moment and kill someone.
I'll send an email to Director Kinter about it. And David, if you David or Sunny, if you want to send an email to the PLI AppTech email address.
You put him in the link. I can do that.
Okay.
And see I think this is the property that Bob Charlin and I, when I think we were trying to figure out where the incomplete application was when we were looking at Civic Central, and it kept coming up. And then it was incomplete because it had, and through PLI App Tech, that they had not applied for the certificate of appropriateness. And again, I don't want to repeat myself, but it was like, why do we need to do that? We need to stabilize the building.
Right.
So, well, this is very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if all of the exterior brick could be removed and then start the HRC process, at least it's safe from anyone getting hurt or the building collapsing. But I don't know, David, if that's possible to remove all of the exterior brick and it still be structurally sound.
Yeah, it is, Sonny. We've had a structural engineer down there take a look at it. Okay,
Right.
I mean, there's a process and way to do it that the mason doing it needs to follow, but it can be done.
So would, again, as you're working through what needs to be done for HRC, again, taking the opportunity to work with the local review committee on those windows and the brick and all, I think, I don't want to speak for the LRC, but they're extremely helpful, and we're fortunate to have them working, working with them through all of these projects. So, because probably, as I said, you would probably not go to HRC until April, but then would I be correct that what you present to HRC is what you need to be doing, when you get to that point.
Yeah, so it's a parallel approach.
Yeah.
Mhm. So.
Sounds like there's a plan.
Mhm. Well, good. I think thank you all. We're on the right track for 1500 Bingham. So there may be light at the end of that tunnel. So again, it's, additional comments can come to the community council. And when this project is in front of the, HRC, you can see what it what it, looks like after all of these various meetings. You can also provide public comment, via letter or testimony at the actual meeting. So, so again, David and Sunny, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, great.
Take
And
care.
Godspeed.
Yeah.
Right?
Just had to be
Take
said.
care.
And so then, I think that's it for our February dam. And this, we actually have to start putting follow-up about these projects on our website. I don't think that's up to date, but the recording will be on our YouTube page. And if you're not already signed up for our monthly newsletter, please do so by going to our website. And our next dam is scheduled for St. Patrick's Day. So if that presents a problem for anyone, please let me know so that we can change the day.
On the south side? Nah, no problem.
This might be the place for us to be. So
Right. Okay, thank you again, everyone.
all right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good
All right.
Good night.
everybody,
Thanks,
thank
good night.
Good night.